Hello, welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again. Happy Friday Night Live. Hello. Hello, Miss Tracie. What's up, you guys? I don't know if Elwanda is in the house yet. She hasn't made her presence known. We can't thoroughly get started. I haven't even talked to her today until mom is in the house. Hola, hola. Hey, Joy. Hey. Welcome, you guys. I'm really excited about tonight's conversation. So, if you are meeting me for the very first time, my name is Tracie Collins, and I go live every Friday night, and I call it Friday Night Live. And we talk primarily about whatever y'all want to talk about, but also about my world as a business strategist, wellness expert, and my life here in the beautiful San Miguel de Allende, and everything that I do. Okay, Elwanda is in the house. Hey, Mom. I haven't talked to you today. I called you yesterday. You ignored my call. You didn't call me back. Just so you guys I'll give you an update briefly. This is my mom. She comes in every Friday night, of course, to join us. She is a regular here. But I got my care packages from Elwanda. Hold on, y'all. I got 2 out of the 3. She still has one that she is going to send to me. But I got my stuff. So thanks, Mom, so much. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here for this conversation. And so, hey, Jeanette. Oh, thank you, darling. So quickly, just before we thoroughly get started with our guest tonight, I want to give an update on the Move to Mexico conference. If you guys are not aware, there is a Move to Mexico conference that we are hosting, and it's a virtual conference November 1st through the 3rd. Get your tickets. If I don't have the link in the description now, it will be a link in the description later. Okay, just know. But the Move to Mexico conference, so for people who are interested in primarily moving to Mexico, it is going to be information about immigration, healthcare, health insurance, real estate, renting versus buying, shipping your goods. What else? Cultural norms. It is going to be a well-versed, information-packed weekend. So it is November 1st through the 3rd. Get your tickets now. Also, for those of you guys who don't already know, Michelle and I have come together, and we have Black Blossom Talks and Travel and Talks, and we are hosting our first wellness retreat in Oaxaca next year in March, which I am so excited for. I think I'm really ready too. Like I'm winding down to, I think it's like fall or the end of the year, and your girl is tired. So I'm looking forward to our rest and wellness retreat happening. And if I don't have that information in the description, I will definitely make sure it's in there. It should be, but if I don't, it will be shortly thereafter this conversation tonight. So without further ado, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I'm excited to have this conversation. And a lot of you guys know this face from the tiny house community. Not only is Jewel Pearson a trailblazer for Black women and Black people in general in the tiny home industry, and she's been featured on HGTV and Essence and BuzzFeed and so much more. She is a staunch advocate for for the tiny house community. She has a beautiful following herself, but I have had the opportunity to get to know her since she has been here in San Miguel de Allende. And I followed her, and not only is she just like gorgeous and like amazing style, and she's a sassy Black girl, and that's the kind of girls I like. So, but she recently went through her own health journey, and I'm just so excited that she's here to share her story with us. And please listen up. As you guys know, I'm an advocate for women, but primarily Black women, because I am one. And this conversation tonight will save your life or somebody else's life. So without further ado, I will be bringing Jewel on. I come on close, Mom.
We're cracking up at that comment.
I must be mama in, okay? I have on clothes. I also still have my tan, y'all, from Bacalar. So you see my real color and I think this is my New Mexican color. But anyway, hello, Jewel. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So you guys, Jewel, we have claimed her in San Miguel de Allende. She has hung out with the cool kids. and has quickly become acclimated, not only acclimated, but it's like she has always been a part of us. So just so y'all know, we done claimed another one here in SMA. So how are you enjoying your journey here thus far?
I am enjoying it. It is a fabulous place. I have been social butterflying. I came out to get some work done, to rest and relax, and I have been having a beautiful time getting to hang out with the community here. So I'm having a great time.
So I did introduce you. A lot of people know you from the tiny home community. And I think that's when I first started following you. I think it was a few years ago. You know, when you had your beautiful bald head, I was like, oh my gosh, she is gorgeous. And but just the work that you've done in that space. And just a little bit before we dive into the real reason why we're here, what was your main reason for venturing and starting your own tiny home?
So I built my tiny house in 2015. So I'm almost a 10-year tiny house dweller. And I designed and built my house before it was a thing. For me, it was the culmination of a long time dream, coming through as a young single mom, all of the stress of that, and just knowing that once my daughter was kind of off into her own, that I wanted to live, as I've described it, just be irresponsible, live a lighter, easier lifestyle. And I started dreaming that when she was headed into kindergarten. And at that time, I imagined that I'd live in an RV once she was grown and kind of travel. And then as she headed off into undergrad, 2005, then I really got serious about what was that going to look like. And I realized that the RVs and things that I liked were pricey. So I was going to have to keep working to be able to afford that. And then I stumbled on a woman's story around 2011, 2012. She had designed, and actually she physically built her own tiny house, and her story kind of resonated with me. And I decided then that I was going to build a tiny house. So I just started researching, and 2.5, almost 3 years of research, designed my house, hired a general contractor to build it, and have been in the tiny house movement since that time, and have kind of over the probably about a year or so in, pivoted because I realized Black folks weren't included in the movement. Our challenges that we face are different than my counterparts in accessing the movement. And so that has been kind of my focus since that time, just making sure, sharing my home for one. My tagline is, you don't have to give up luxury to go tiny. I want us to understand a tiny house doesn't have to be the struggle. It doesn't have to be Laura Ingalls' Little House on the Prairie where you're out foraging in the woods. That it can still be luxury, just on a smaller scale, because year after year, we are last in home ownership in the United States. And so trying to talk about a tiny house with Black and brown folks is a difficult conversation. So I have shared my home, my journey, and do the work in the community to help us be part of this, because it's an opportunity for us for financial wealth, for freedom, for generational wealth building, all of the things that our community so desperately needs. Tiny houses offer opportunity there.
I know for Honey and I, we plan to own land and put tiny homes on there. So when we get to that point, I'm gonna reach out for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then just really quick, one last question about the tiny home. You are an Atlanta girl also.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think about the new tiny home development in College Park? And then also they're doing a new one in Hampton. Did you know that? A new community in Hampton. I think it's in.
I haven't seen the community in Hampton. So Booker, who built the community in Atlanta. So my tiny house is in Charlotte before I confuse anybody, but I consider Atlanta home. I had Booker speak at an event in April. So I got a chance to meet him in person and talk to him about his community. His work is fabulous. I am happy for him to have started expanding minds in and allowing people to see a Black developer. His houses are different from the area that I am in because my house is actually on wheels. And so he's building on foundation. And so we're in the movement together, but kind of in different areas of the movement. But I love his work for sure.
He's so nice. We had tried to get one in the College Park area when they first launched, but they had sold out of their owner to, like, there was a percentage where you can purchase and rent out. And so they had sold out of there's, unless we were going to live in it. I was like, I don't want to live there, but I would love to own, but I love the work that he has done. He's such a nice guy too. Such a nice guy. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about your journey. So take us to the beginning of what happened and your beginning stages of your sign. So if you guys don't know, Jewel recently suffered a mini stroke. Am I saying that correctly?
A TIA, transient ischemic. Oh, what is the A? I'll figure it out. Something. Yes, a mini stroke. Yes.
Okay. But take us to before it happened, just like your health journey and the factors of your lifestyle that, that could have potentially led up to this moment in your life.
So it's a transient ischemic attack. That's the A word, attack. So kind of tying my tiny house journey into this story. My intent as I built my tiny house in 2015 was, like I said, to be irresponsible, to live life lighter. I purposely designed a life that I love, a less stressful life. My intent was to be able to have my expenses such that I wasn't required to be in a job that I didn't like. As a young single mom and you focused on feeding a child and paying the bills, sometimes you're working in places that you don't want to work, but you can't just leave because you need to be at a certain level from a financial perspective. So I wanted to be able to do something different within my lifestyle, to be able to work at jobs that I enjoyed. Somehow I ended up, and I had done that for a long time. And somehow I ended up in a job that was very stressful. It wasn't what it didn't turn out to be what I had been sold in the interview process. Very stressful job, very stressful organization. Management was stressful, all of the things. And I realized I had stepped backward in my plans for myself. And just in the course of, I hadn't been there very long, started working there February of 2023, and around November or so, the stress from the job I started feeling it in my body. December. And so I started talking to a therapist, just because my intent at that point was, okay, let me get to a year at this organization, and then I'm going to go out on medical leave from stress, from the mental stress. Started talking to a therapist. I'm, doing the deep breathing at work, because the stress, what I would feel in my body, it only happened during the work day. So I knew it was related to the job. December 1st, I went to the doctor because I started feeling like this fluttering happening in my chest. And so I told him there's something happening in my chest. He listens with the stethoscope, says nothing's wrong. You're fine. Your heart is fine. And then on December the 23rd, I had a mini stroke, the TIA. And one of the scariest experiences I've ever had, which is why I'm openly sharing what has happened, because I don't want women, people, especially Black women, to have to experience what I've experienced. So I had the mini stroke. It was, and I knew all of the symptoms of a stroke because I thought I needed to know them for older family members. And experienced this stroke, was totally incapacitated. I think that's the right word. For 45 minutes. Severe dizziness. I had all of the symptoms. As I shared with you, I was very clear in my mind. Stumbled in the house, it started outside, the dizziness, and it was like the world was spinning. Stumbled in the house, sat on the couch, and waiting for it to subside. And then all of the rest of the symptoms started happening outside of the dizziness. I couldn't speak. I couldn't control any of the left side of my body, lost complete control of my body. And I was kind of stuck like that for about 45 minutes. But in my head, I was very clear. Like, I was having a conversation with my head. Jewel, you are having a stroke. And I was assessing myself. There's a mirror on the other side of my couch, so I could see myself. And so all of the symptoms, there's an acronym for a stroke, and it's be fast or fast. And so it kind of talks through what's happening with the stroke. You lose your balance, the B in be fast, you lose your balance, your vision is impacted. Your face starts drooping. So I didn't have that piece of it. And it's generally on your left side, but it doesn't always have to be. I lost feeling in my left arm, my left leg, and I couldn't speak. But again, in my head, I was very clear. So I'd assessed myself that I was having this stroke. Then it stopped. It completely stopped after 45 minutes. I shared with you that I think I was probably going to get up and pack a bag and take a shower and do all the things. Like, I knew I had a stroke, so I was going to go to the doctor, but I think I was going to take too much time to do it, because the thing about a mini stroke that people need to know is that it's the precursor, it's the warning that a bigger stroke is coming. And so somewhere the highest risk factor is between that time in 48 hours that you're going to have a major stroke. So the T in be fast is time, that when you need to call 911. I won't say I was lollygagging, but I was probably going to take more time than I should have. And I said that God tapped me again. He was like, okay, she's just doing the most. Let me tap her again. And the spin started happening again. And this time it was even more violent, and with nausea. And I knew I was going to pass out. So it stopped again, and I was able to call 911. My journey since that point has been, I was in the hospital for 6 days. What came out of that was the discovery that I had a small hole in my heart, which is called a PFO, patent foramen ovale. As I talk about what was discovered, I want to point out that everything I have is common. 1 in 4 people have this hole in their heart. We're all born with it. It is the hole that we have when we're in the womb. It is how blood goes across the chambers, left to right chamber in the womb. But then when you're born, you start breathing, that hole is supposed to close up. But for 1 in 4 people, it does not close up. So that statistic is telling to me, because you're in a conversation with 1 in 4 people, somebody in that group is impacted by this. So it's not abnormal. The only way you would know you have it is if you have heart disease, if you experience a stroke, or you have some type of heart challenge or heart attack. So I am 57 years old. I had lived with this PFO for all of these years. They said, like, activated by stress. So my heart was racing, dealing with the stress of this job. and it activated this PFO, and a blood clot formed within my body. The perfect storm went through that hole and then went to my brain, and that is what caused the stroke. My glasses are fogging up. I should have cut on the fan.
You want to get the fan? Do you want to turn it on?
Oh, it's in the room. That's okay. It's okay.
You
I'll
sure?
figure it out. Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Mine do the same thing, and I got a fan blowing right next to me. Today was hot, though. Wasn't today warm?
Today was warm. Let me go get my little fan. I don't want to go get the plane. There's a fan that sounds like a plane in here. Hold on.
Okay. So if you guys have any questions for Jewel, make sure you drop them in the comments, and I will get to them as she finishes sharing her story, because I want you guys to have your questions answered, but also know, like, this is an important conversation that we all need to have, but also symptoms that we all need to be aware of, especially as Black women. Our symptoms are very different, and we have the propensity to brush our health scares off. We focus more on doing versus just being, and I want us to get out of that do aspect of us, and more, how can we be more intentional about our health and wellness? Because I don't care what your goals are, what you aspire to, and all of the things, all the money you want to make, if you ain't here, none of that matters.
Right.
Okay? If you don't have ability or your cognitive wherewithal, none of it matters. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So one thing, so to your point, I want to also mention, so the acronym Be Fast that people speak to for knowing the symptoms of a stroke, there are also some different symptoms that can happen as part of having a stroke for women. It could be a severe headache. It could be hiccups. I mentioned the nausea, but it can also be shortness of breath and seizures. So where they talk about the main symptoms of a stroke, there are also some other things that can happen specifically to women that aren't really known. And so you could be having a stroke and not necessarily even know it, because if you familiarized yourself with the acronym, then you don't even, you're not counting those things. So that is a good call out. I see somebody asking,
hiccups.
Hiccups. Yep. I see somebody asking, do I still have that doctor? Absolutely not. He got canceled, and I'm gonna talk about that too. So from December the 23rd, when the stroke happened, then for the last few months, I have been on this journey of discovery. Part of the discovery was a big part of the discovery was figuring out what caused me to have a stroke. It wasn't like heart disease. It wasn't what I was eating. It was none of that. And also figuring out what caused the blood clot. So there were like two things that had to be figured out. So the first piece of figuring out what caused me to have the stroke was the PFO, determining that I had a PFO, the hole in my heart. And so I had a surgery to actually put kind of like a plug in my heart to close that hole. Some people opt to not have that surgery. It used to be kind of where they would have to crack your chest open to do stuff like that. Now they have all of the opportunity to go in through, your pelvic area and use screens, and I've forgotten what the
Yeah, I actually have had that done because of my heart condition. They go in and you're in a fog, but you're still awake. And they go in and they do it, and it is on the screen, and they insert blue dye into your system as they're doing the procedure. Mm-hmm.
So so they put the device in, and I hesitate calling it a device because it doesn't do anything but close that hole. Then and over time, it should become part of my heart as skin and muscle grows over it. As part of that, right now, things that I didn't realize is that my body started fighting that device because it felt like there's something foreign in here. And so I have been, I experienced afibrillation, a different type of heart rate, and had to learn a whole bunch of stuff about that. And then the second piece of figuring out that what caused the blood clots, because I also had blood clots in 2007. They determined that I had a syndrome called May-Thurner syndrome, which is 1 in 5 people have it. So again, this is not anything that I just was an anomaly. 1 in 5 people have this, and this is where, so in your calf, I think it's the left calf all the time, they consider that your second heart. And what happens there is the blood is taken down from your heart to your lower extremities by an artery, and it's brought back up by a vein. And that vein is kind of focused in the left calf. And so with this May-Thurner syndrome, 1 in 5 people have a condition where the vein is compressed. I had to get it right. The vein is compressed by the artery. And so that is what was happening to me. And so that compression was likely causing blood clots to form. And so the second surgery that I had was to go in and put 2 stents in that vein to open it up so the blood would flow normally. Again, 1 in 5 people, something that 1 in 5 people have. The thing that has stood out for me over time is how much I had to advocate for myself, because appointments, knowing that there were 2 things to figure out. I was going to my cardiologist. We figure out the device has to be placed, but nobody was talking about the blood clots. And then I had to keep pushing. Okay, I need to understand what's happening there. There was so much avocation within the health community, as well as my FMLA, short-term, long-term disability. There were so many times where it was so frustrating, where I feel like, especially on the job side, at one point I didn't have any income coming in because they were trying to do all of this, assessment, all of the things that they have to do. And I have said several times, I feel like a lot of it is them hoping that you'll just give up and go back to work because you're in, you need some money coming in. So, okay, I can't keep waiting. Let me just go back to work. And so there was so much, and as I've shared my story, it has been a lot of, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to research. They'll tell you don't Google, but then you can't get them to answer anything. So then you do need to Google. You still need to know what's going on. You need to share, because oftentimes people are also going through this and you have no idea. And it's been a lot of not sharing. So one of the things so after my first surgery, so let me go back. From having the TIA, after that second episode broke, the dizziness and the like where the world was spinning broke, and I called 911, I didn't have that anymore. I was able to walk to the ambulance because I regained all of the use of my body. So I didn't have to do physical therapy from an external standpoint. The way I have been impacted from the mini stroke was in my memory and in my word recall. And so my words don't come as quick. And I can kind of feel them like I know it's right there, and I just can't get it to pull forward. And one of the things that I learned, so from December, my first surgery was in June, that had started kind of subsiding. The words were coming back a little more than they were initially. After my first surgery, when I was in recovery, when I came to and was trying to have a conversation, I was almost back to square one. Like, I realized that the words wouldn't come again. And so now I'm panicked. I'm like, have I had a stroke again? Like, what has happened? And I'm just nervous, like something has happened, because I knew I had gotten better at this, and now here I am again. So then I go to my 2 or 3 week checkup, and I'm talking to the cardiologist, and I'm explaining this to her, and I'm like, I feel like my memory and I'm back to square one. And I'm wondering, did I have a stroke again? And so she's like, no, that's called recrudence. And as soon as I'm talking, she's shaking her head. No, that's called recrudence. And it happens to stroke victims after they've had anesthesia, sedation. It can happen when you're stressed out. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's something that should have been on a one pager kind of deal, to let you know to expect this. And it happens to women, this recrudence, women, and to Black folks. Nowhere did I read about recrudence. Nowhere did they say, hey, you might want to expect this. Like, I'm checking two boxes. I'm a woman, I'm a Black person. I'm checking two boxes. The likelihood of me having this is high. And so those were the types of things. And again, why I share what I share, because I don't want anybody to have to wake up from a surgery and think I've had a stroke again, like it was stressful. One of the things they keep telling you, and this is what I've said as I've had to advocate, you all keep telling me that one of the things that I need to make sure I avoid is stress, but you all are stressing me out. So this is like a contradiction. I'm being stressed out having to advocate for myself. I'm being stressed out because you all aren't giving all of the information. I'm being stressed out because you all are playing around with my money, all of the things, and I need to avoid stress. So it has been 9 months of a lot of focusing on how do I navigate this? What do I do? I opted to have the device placed because, and some people opt to not do that, but I didn't want to live life knowing I had this hole in my heart and I could potentially have another stroke again. So if the option was for me to have the device placed, I opted for that. You know, some people choose not to. You're going to be on some meds. I'm on some meds. That to me was just like extra precaution to not have to deal with that. I think the thing that, and why I'm here in San Miguel, the thing that I haven't focused on is my mental health and my spiritual health and emotional health, because I've been on go in trying to figure out all of the things health related, recovering from 2 surgeries, all of those things. And I haven't had the time to kind of sit and figure out who I am and how I'm feeling and all of the things. And so that is, as I've shared, one of the bigger things, because we're used to being on go and we're used to being strong and we're used to being all of those things. And I'm not doing those things anymore. I want to be soft and I want to be able to sit and do nothing. And I'm having to learn how to sit and do nothing because I've worked, you know, I've had a job since I was in the 7th grade. Now I want to be able to just be. And not have to think about all of these things. So I am so much better than I was initially. But as I share this story, I want us specifically to know what's out there, to know how to navigate these spaces, to know that the end game is for them to have you going back to work. And one of the things that I've shared is, my employer felt like I should be able to come back to work on August the 1st. And I still was going through recovery and all of the things. My doctor was saying no. And in the time that they thought I was coming back to work and all of these things, not once has my manager asked me how I was.
Oh my, why did I know that was it? Why did I know that was it?
Not once. She even reached out and started talking about work. She didn't even start with, how are you? And I'm thinking, you know, in just a general conversation with somebody on the street, you ask how they are. That's just basic common courtesy. Not once did she said how you are. Did she ask how I was? And so, you know, not that I needed additional confirmation that I wasn't going back to that job, but that was just like, okay, this is the ultimate in. You don't, you know, I already knew you didn't care, but now, you know, this is the ultimate confirmation that no, you absolutely do not care.
So thank you so much for sharing all of that. Now, outside of just like taking it slow and listening to your body, talk to people, because I've gotten like to spend time with you, but how you like your dietary preferences, like pre and then now. But like even before, you give me the sense that wasn't what you were doing anyway. So like tell people what your dietary preferences are.
So I have, for a very long time, I have been focused on eating better, just from a health and weight perspective. So I am more of the, I don't eat pork. I don't, it's very rare that I might eat some beef. And when I do, it's like I should not have ever done that.
Mhm.
Um, my main focus is eating fish and vegetables. My vice is candy. I do love candy. I won't tell a lie. I love candy. Um, but this wasn't health related for me. That
Mhm.
was one of the things. I had so many people reaching out to me that I posted about this, that it was offensive in some ways, where people were reached out to tell me, this you should be eating this and you shouldn't be doing that. And it's like, you have assumed that my issue was caused, or they're offering, I do food counseling and blah blah, blah blah blah. You haven't asked me, do I
Right.
need that, or what was the cause? That wasn't the cause. I had a hole in my heart that was
Mhm.
activated by stress. It had nothing to do with, I don't have heart disease, I don't have any of the problem. I had a hole in my heart that you might as well, because it's 1 in 4 people. So, while you're in my inbox trying to tell me what to eat, ask me what happened. But
Mhm.
so I am a fish and um, veggies, and I mean a protein. Like I've always tried to, not always, as I have gotten older, I have tried to focus on eating better. My tiny house right now is on a friend's farm. And when I moved out there almost 4 years ago, I was like, you can't sit in here and eat recklessly and then look out at all of this and know that God has put this beauty out here, and you're focused on all of his goodness. And then I'm going to be in here eating like I'm crazy. So that has
Right.
just been, something. And as we're getting older, that just makes common sense, that you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your body.
Yeah. What ways now that you didn't before listen to your body outside of, okay, I'm slowing down?
So, I shared that I had blood clots in 2007. That was really when I started listening to my body, because I had bunches of blood clots in both of my lungs in
I
2000.
can't believe when you told me that, I was like, girl,
And I
what
had had,
about the shortness of breath or the pain in your back?
so God is always talking to me. I had a pain under my left breast that was so bad. I couldn't even, I was bent over. I couldn't even sit up straight. I was going in the office. I was working. I Like I said, I think it had started like on a Wednesday. I thought I had pulled a muscle when I was working out. And so I was thinking, if I just keep stretching, this will fix itself. And that Friday night, my girlfriend that I was riding home from work with, she said, if you don't feel better tomorrow, I'm going to give you a muscle relaxer. So I was like, okay. And I surely would have killed myself had I taken the muscle relaxer. And I guess God, again, I keep telling y'all, God would just be tapping me. So that about Saturday morning, about 2, 3, maybe 4 in the morning, um, it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe.
Mhm.
And I was gasping for air,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to spend money on calling an ambulance. I drove my goofy self to the emergency room. I got in there and I told them I had a pulled muscle. I needed some muscle relaxers. I had things to do. I wasn't trying to stay in there. All of the things. I'm trying to tell them how to do their job. But this was different, Jewel. And so he's like, yeah, that sounds like you might have a pulled muscle,
Oh
but
my
let us do CAT scans. Let us do let us do our job, girl. And so they did a CAT scan initially, and he came back and he was like, you have a blood clot. And so I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, because I was getting my nieces and nephews. This
God,
was
stuff to
so
do.
much to do.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, how long will I have to be in the hospital? He was like, you got to stay in the hospital. So how long do I have to be in the hospital? So he was like, 2 to 3 days. So I'm texting my sister. I'm in the hospital, but I'm only going to be here 3 days, and I'm pushing it out now because I was going to get my nieces and nephews from Atlanta. I'm like, okay, I'll be here for 3 days, but then, I'm making arrangements. And so then they did the MRI, and this woman came in. She was she was Russian. She had an accent. Big woman. I never saw her again. Never. She came in and she said, "You have bunches of blood clots in both of your lungs." And she said, most people drop dead from one blood clot within 24 hours. And she said, you clearly have had bunches for about 72 hours. And she says, if I were you, I would lay very still until we can get some medicine in you. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there like, I want to cry. I want to scream, but she told me to lay very still. And I'm here.
Like, you better lay very still.
I ain't moving. I'm trying not to even breathe. And so that was a journey of, I had to go to after I got out of the hospital, I had to go to the doctor every single day for them to prick my finger and check my blood levels and adjust my blood thinner. Mm-hmm. I did that for 9 months. And that was the change in Jewel. Because I recognized this was like 2 weeks before my 40th birthday. I realized that I had stuff in I had the fancy glasses and the everyday glasses. I had things in the back of the closet that were for special occasions that I didn't wear. Mm-hmm. And I realized at that point how close I was to not using any of that stuff, not having done so many things. And that was the change. And that was when I started listening to my body more. And it has just carried over to now where as I've been recovering, like I had to realize I don't even really know how to sit in the afternoon and take a nap. But my body says you need to take a nap. So now it becomes part of what I do. It is the conversation I have to have with myself where I feel like I'm taking a nap, but sometimes my brain is racing, talking about telling me the things that I could be doing or the things that I should be doing. And I'm having to learn how to shut that down. Mm-hmm. I'm having to learn how to be okay with things aren't getting done. Mm-hmm. But I'm taking care of myself. The thing that is being done is I'm taking care of myself. Right. And that is a little bit different than it was before. Like the blood clots changed me completely. Mm-hmm. I'm not the go. I'm not trying to tell the doctor what his job is. I'm going to check out the things. But now it is also very important to me to rest, to make sure I'm getting my 7 hours of sleep, because that's very important. A lot of us are sleep deficit because we're not sleeping. Everything that I've been reading said we need a minimum of 7 hours of sleep a night. So I have an alarm on my phone to tell me it's time to go to bed, and I shut it down. I'm going to bed. And so those are the things that are different from me now. And it helps you really with your, like my gratitude, my appreciation. Like I saw somebody said, I'm here for a reason. Like my mm-hmm. cardiologist even said to me, he was like, girl, if you don't have a relationship with God, you better get one, because you've had two major life events and right. You keep walking away unscathed. Like both of those things what should have
taken you out.
Me.
Yeah.
So I that part I'm very different in.
Mm-hmm. So that's a lot.
It is a lot. I am so good.
You are, and it and such a jewel, literally, to be around. Like for real, you guys. I mean, she really is. I want to talk about ways Black women, in particular, how we need to advocate for ourselves. I am a starch advocate for, like, that white coat don't scare me at all. I'm the family member people call, like, Tracie, I need you to be on the phone with me while I am in consultation with my doctor, because we have to go the extra mile. And not only that, you need to know what what people are in place to help support you when you're not being heard by your medical team. So, what steps did you take to seriously advocate for yourself then versus how you do it now? And what do you see, since you started sharing your story, how we as women, primarily Black women, we are quiet about our suffering?
So that I've always been the advocate in the, like where you said, people call you. There's a joke with my daughter when she was in school. I'm the mama that's going to be at school. Like, you ain't getting ready to clown on my child. And so many of her friends used to ask her, could you get your mama to come to school?
Family member people warn people about, like, you don't want Tracie.
When I was married, so like I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna be real calm till I'm not, because I'm gonna try to get you to do the right thing. I'm gonna give you every opportunity. When I was married, like sometimes in a restaurant, it would be frustrating when it would happen, but I would giggle later. My ex-husband used to put his fork at the end of the table when stuff was.
He said, "You one of them."
He said what?
He said, "Oh, Jewel, one of them."
Oh yes, he would put his fork at the end of the table when it was getting ready to go down. Like, I'm trying to work with y'all, but it's getting ready to go down. He would put his fork at the end of the table and act like he had dropped it and be up looking kind of under the table when it was going down, because he didn't want any parts of it. I am going to work with you. So I've always been an advocate, always been my brother says that I can use some of the nicest words to get somebody really told. I ain't got to cuss you out. I ain't got to be, I call it nice, nasty. Like, I can be very professional with getting you told. And that is the way that I have had to approach these doctors, because obviously I need them. Yeah. But I also need you to understand that I'm not playing with my health. And so there have been 2 instances, like, where I've said to them, I could see if I was writing, because I'm using this portal, most of the medical systems now have a portal. So I'm using the portal. And I've said to them, I could see if I was writing to you about a rash, or something simple in the delays that this is taking, but I'm writing to you about my heart. This is serious. And so the delays that this is taking, it's unacceptable. And I'm okay with escalating. Like, if I've given ample time to respond and all of the things, I'm going to escalate, because this is my heart. I don't have time for you all to take your time and something negatively impact me because it wasn't caught or it wasn't addressed in time. And I'll give you an example. So I was, as my body has been adjusting to this plug in my heart, as it has the heart rate, it has impacted my heart rate, and it has impacted my heart rhythm. And they had given me, so I had to wear a heart monitor 3 times now, I think, for them to figure out what was going on. And the second time I went had to wear one, they had given me this, what I called a bootleg version. Like, that was the only thing I could describe it as. So they have a version of the heart monitor that they place on you, and when you feel palpitations or flutters or whatever, you can press a button, and the button will automatically send a signal to somebody. It's recorded. So the device, the thing that you're wearing, comes with a cell phone type of thing, and it asks you what's happening, and so you indicate it on the phone. Then they have that version that you were just talking about. So the very first time I had to wear
like I've had to deal with them my whole life, so I'm used to the old school version.
So listen. So the very first time I had the fancy one that you just entered it on the phone. The second time they tried to give me this device, they gave me that one where you got to stop, and write it down. It's like, I know you have a different device. I'm not, like, if I'm asleep, I'm not going to wake up and make a note, or if I'm driving, I'm not going to take a note of what happened. I'm not going to remember. And so I went back to the doctor's office, and in my head, I was like, Jewel, are you being bougie? Like, I was checking, Like, can you just do this? And I was like, no, my insurance is paying for this. I know they have this version that is so much better. So I went back and the only thing I could say to them, they all laughed. I was like, this is bootleg and I don't want it. I want the other version. And so they gave me the other version. What happened was the very next day, a woman calls me and she says, you need to go to the specialist right away because the device had signaled that I was having dangerous heart rhythm.
Mhm.
And it had signaled because it was so bad, it had sent a signal somewhere and the signal contacted the doctor's office. And so
Mhm.
then I knew that next day they had me go into a specialist. I had to get some medicines, like because what was happening was really bad. But if I had not taken that step
Yeah.
to advocate to get that level of machine, I would have made a note and it would have been another 15 to 30 days before anybody would have known what was happening because they got to review that data.
Mhm.
And so for me, that was again confirmation of that you're exactly right to advocate for yourself. You're exactly right to request the best of the best. You're exactly right to require that they follow up. You're exactly right to escalate, do all of the things, and don't allow them to half ass you because they're busy and because they're doing all of the things. You
Mhm.
are the priority. You have to be your own priority.
Right. Also is you went from not listening to your gut to listening to your gut,
Absolutely.
not listening to your intuition, not listening to your God voice to the moment it whispers, you hear it loud and clear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like when my cardiologist said, I hope you have a relationship with God. I absolutely do. And I recognize that there are so many times he's absolutely, I have joked like when I was trying to get out of that job and I was like, I have got to find another job. And I was like, what do I need to do? And I was like, God, can you just tell me what I need to do? And I had
Mm.
joked with somebody and I said, I live out here on this farm. It's a whole bunch of trees and stuff. Like you could burn a bush. You could write me a note in the farm on the farm. Like I'm saying, God can just write me a note, tell me what to do. And then I had the mini stroke, and I was like, okay, that was a no,
You
but
want
that's
to
not. I didn't want that kind of no. Like I need to be
you
more.
want something that's subtle.
Yes. So I recognize that God is always talking to me when I'm thinking, like when I was going back and forth, should I just accept this one? But I know there's a nicer option out here, nicer device. I want that device. And it saved me. It saved my life. And so absolutely listening. And the part of me sharing this story, like I had a conversation since I've been here in San Miguel, I met a Black woman out and I think I shared with you. I heard somebody saying, hey, hey, and I was like, I know it's a Black lady talking to me. Yes. I turned around, this Black lady, hey.
That's
Um,
actually kind of what we do. Hey,
yes.
we yell across the streets or we
I knew
yell from
it was somebody talking to me. So Black lady waving. So we've gotten together a couple of times, and so I was sharing my story with her, and just like has happened so many times, as I was telling her about my word recall in my memory, then she shares she had a mini stroke several years ago and she's dealing with that word recall and memory, but she hasn't talked to anybody about it. She's just kind of been dealing with it because she was wondering, was she starting to experience dementia? And so I said it's very likely that that is part of your stroke, a symptom of, I think that's right, a symptom
Mhm.
of your stroke. And
Mhm.
so again, the confirmation so this woman I just met her, and I could see her being relieved from.
Just affirmed.
Exactly,
I
exactly,
heard.
exactly.
Why
And
I'm so adamant about Black women. We need to share our stories because we've been taught to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
But if we go back and do what our ancestors did, we would really sit at our mamas and grandmamas' feet as they told stories. So, sharing, we need to get back to our roots and our ancestral way of being, because you will save not only your life but somebody else's, and they will also be affirmed in what they're experiencing. So many women have come across my line of work and been like suffering in silence because the women in their family never shared their story.
Mhm.
So you want to talk a lot and you want to talk loud. I don't care how much you are made to feel like you're an anomaly. It is not only going to be until you start talking about it will you realize that you are not.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the younger Black women are more open and sharing. I think my
It's a
generation,
cultural thing. I mean, a generational thing.
yeah, my generation and above, we, like what you said, you suffer in silence. You don't tell your business, you talk about stuff outside, all of that. And my channel, I have shared all of the things of what has happened. I have shared as I've gone along. I've cried because, I mean, it's heavy, it's a lot. Um, but I've also seen people in my community say, I'm putting in for a leave, I'm quitting this job, I'm going to the doctor.
Mhm.
You helped me recognize that I had something going on I needed to see about. Those are the things that are confirmation for this conversation. Like, I don't want anybody, the terror I had in experiencing that mini stroke and being struck and stuck and being alone and all of the things, I don't want anybody else to have to experience that if they don't have to.
Mhm. Um, and I think it's also important to work with care providers that listen to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, know how to contact your patient's advocate. Also, say if you are requesting something and it's being denied, ask for it in writing on letterhead.
Hmm.
So you say, let me get this straight. You are denying said what I'm requesting. Okay, can you please write that down on hospital letterhead? Thank you. And when they start seeing that you are asking for a paper trail,
Yeah.
they shift up, because the last thing they want to do is they care about liability. That's it. Also, know who your physician is, who their boss is, and like what is the hierarchy. When I tell you we have to go above and beyond when it comes to advocacy for ourselves, because number one, they're not trained to look at the differences with Black and brown bodies, because textbook wise, it is not, we're not textbook cases. And also medical devices will not pick up on certain things because of melanin. So when I tell you, you have to advocate differently and intentionally and know who holds what seats, or have either email addresses, or know where certain offices are and who holds what position and how to get into contact with them when you are not being heard. We have to go above and beyond when it comes to advocating for ourselves. I cannot stress that enough. And it will save, as we see, your life.
Yeah. The first doctor, my primary care doctor, who I'd had for many, many years, um, when that's the one who said your heart is fine, and he listened with the stethoscope. I should have pressed him to send me on because I knew something was happening. I didn't press him. I had confidence in him because I'd been to him for so many years. I'd actually met him right as I had the blood clots in my lungs, a Black man, and I felt like he had my best interest at heart. I realized from that point, and then as I was also having him fill out my paperwork for leave, he was struggling with that, and I actually asked him, like, who are you working for? Are you working for me, your patient, or are you working for my employer? Because you're trying to advocate for them versus advocating for me. And so then I realized, okay, it's time to get another doctor,
Right.
and
I've seen
I haven't seen him since.
I've seen so much pushback with Black doctors denying Black women leave.
We agreed on a date that I'd be out, and I pushed him for the date, and then he went to fill out the paperwork, and then when he brought the paperwork back, he had written another date, and I just happened to catch it, and I was like, "That's not the date we agreed on." And so he looked weird.
Like,
So
you caught me.
I caught him. So I know you did that on purpose, and that was like, whose side are you on? And that was the last time I saw him, because I don't want to have to fight with you and fight with my employer and trying to get my benefits. Like, if somebody's supposed to be on my side, it's supposed to be you. And that is one of, just like what you said, that has been one of the things that I have done, is researching, asking folks, give me a doctor that you are enjoying, that you recommend, researching, listening, looking at their reviews. And if I'm not comfortable, I'm not going to just keep coming to you because you're the doctor. Like, I'm going to go somewhere where I feel like what you're saying, I feel like I'm being heard. We have a good conversation. I feel like you actually care about what is going on with me, and I'm getting a second opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jewel. Does anyone have any questions before we let Jewel go?
So she's asking what are the lifestyle changes that I've made.
So she answered that early on. So when you have the opportunity, PSW, to go back and watch it, she did answer the lifestyle changes that have been made.
I can also add that I have zero intention of going back into corporate America, zero. And that is a big thing for me, in trusting that things will work out as they're supposed to be, but I'm not going back into corporate America like that. I have, as I was trying to consider, I'm kind of stressed out because I didn't have the income coming in, and thinking, I've got this job out here that they want me to come back. But I've said that would be like you escaped a fire and then you walk back in the fire. Why would you do that? So that's a major lifestyle change for me.
So is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share before we close tonight?
Do all the things about checking on yourself, your all the tests, almost like a car. Like, you get the mileage at 100,000 miles. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. That's kind of the way we have to check in on ourselves. And you need to. Oftentimes, we'll make sure everybody else goes to the doctor. We're doing all the things, but we're not listening to ourselves. That's important. You have to be the priority. Kind of like what they say, on the airplane, put on your mask first before you try to help other folks. That's what you need to be doing. I don't feel like the strong Black woman and the hard worker and all, like, I'm not doing any of that anymore.
I'm a damsel in distress. You see me stroking my hair?
I'm not doing that anymore. No, I'm not doing that. And it is a whole effort for me, because I've always been the person to get stuff done. I've always been the person that people rely on. It is hard for me to ask for help, but I am learning to ask for help. I'm learning to make my needs known, because if you don't get the help. Yes, D. So those are the things. Like me, I also realized I am not so what I've said was, because it was weird to say I was grateful for a stroke. That doesn't sound right, but I am grateful for the change that experiencing that has made in my life, as far as, I'm not working anymore. I am more focused on corporate America's done. And a book I'm reading about life is in the transitions, gave me a word called a life quake. When something detrimental happens to you that ends up being something that works for your greater good, it either, propels you into a growth cycle, good things come out of something bad. Kind of like if you think about a forest fire burns up everything is in bad shape. But then if you go back in a couple of years, it's lush and it's green. That is a life quake. And so I have some gratitude there for experiencing that because I was trying to figure out how to get out of this situation, and it was figured out for me, and it has put me in a way better space than I was or could have even imagined for myself. So my words of wisdom are listening to ourselves, prioritizing ourselves, figuring out. You see so many people like, when I retire in 10 years, none of that is guaranteed for us. Like, how do you make it happen now? How do
Mhm.
you, even, like my tiny house journey, how do you downsize your life? Because I have also said my tiny house is saving my life right now in that I don't have
Mhm.
the major bills. And so putting yourself in a position so that you are able to be okay and not to have to remain in stressful situations that will actually kill you, because stress will kill you.
That includes relationships, y'all.
Oh yeah, people, places, and things. I have a quote in my house that I from Nina Simone that says, "You have to leave the table when love is no longer being served," and that is people, places, and things.
Mhm.
Knowing,
Mhm.
like my pivot game is fast. Leaving the tables in and making sure that you are prioritizing yourself and you are enjoying life. Like, life is short. You never know. Since I've been here in San Miguel, two people that I know have passed away. One
Mhm.
person had just been talking on Facebook, and then they had a massive heart attack. Like, tomorrow's not promised. The next 15 minutes aren't promised. And so if you're
Right,
not doing the things right now to live life and enjoy yourself and take care of yourself, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
right. Thank you so much, Jewel, for spending our Friday Night Live with us and having this much needed conversation and sharing your story.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you for
so much. I'm so honored to claim you now as part of the SMA crew because we are dope. And I think
absolutely.
you've gotten the opportunity to experience it firsthand.
I
We
appreciate it too. I appreciate
we
brought in.
like you just right on in with us. Right on in. So thank you guys so much for being here and sharing tonight with us. I dropped Jules' information down below. Not that anyone on this thing needs it because I think everybody follow her. But if you don't, I got it already. I need to add in your website. That was the last thing that I need to put in there. But it's all there. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you, Julie. You can hold on next Friday. Okay. Have a great evening, you guys.
Thank you, community.
You're so silly.